you so much for everyone for attending. I was hoping for 4 people. That was my goal. Clearly, we've eclipsed that upper bound. My name is Charles O'Heary, and I am going to do my best to talk to you a lot about me and my beliefs. So, first and foremost, actually, it's stood ahead. I thought it'd be good to introduce myself. A lot of times, speakers walk on stage, and you get a little bit quick bio about them, what they've done professionally. But at Zazzle, the company I work for, we go out of our way to make sure that each one of our execs gets to describe themselves, what they believe in, and how that applies to the jobs and their responsibilities now. So, fun picture of me. Hopefully I look like a cleaned up person. And I gave 4 bullets to describe my take on the next several slides, the next half hour or so we're going to spend together. First off, top left, me, I'm always an order off menu guy. I think the best things are discovered when you let really talented folks walk you through their experience. And sometimes it's just not what's on the menu. They have the abilities to, absolutely. But it's just not there. It's one of those things you have to be in the know. So asking is a big part of how I live. Below that, I believe making is fun. Opportunity to create things on behalf of our customer has been one of the most precious and appreciated parts of my job over the past 16 years. And everyone that works in operations at Zazzle has to subscribe to that. You have to believe that making is fun. And each time our customer endows us with the opportunity to do so, it is a remarkable gift that they are giving us. I believe behind the scenes where the action is, and that's my scene. So a lot of what we do, the stage we've set in operations at Zazzle, which includes core manufacturing, supply chain, an R&D arm, logistics, all of those together comprise my team back in the States here. And we pride ourselves on being a bit like the Secret Service. So on a good day, you should know we're there. Only when things are wrong do you look for the right head or neck to choke, and normally it's someone that rolls up underneath me. And then lastly, it's just a show of respect that we have individually at the company and that we share with all of our customers. Firm belief, one of one. I am one of one. I have very, very unique needs, responsibilities at any given time, and I cherish the opportunity to share that with brands that I engage. So, if you take all of that as to who I am, here's exactly what I believe quite firmly. Big part of our practice. One size does not fit all. It never fits all. It's convenient. Let's be very, very honest about that. It's a good opportunity for us to fall back into our sweet spots. Things that we know, practices, protocols that we use. It's a standard menu answer that we give to customers, or several companies give to customers all the time. And part of what I'm going to ask you here is to challenge that notion and to really embrace personalization. Now, when I say that, I'm sure a lot of folks here think headache at first, or it's a catchphrase you've been hearing over and over. But what I'd really love to share is that personalization is actually on a spectrum. There's so many different things and products and services that can be customized, personalized for an end user. And there are very, very hyper-extreme cases that are remarkably involved, take tons of time and resources. And then there are also, the other side of that spectrum where it's a few toggles, but what you are is you're inviting the customer to let you know what they're requesting and how they intend to use that. But fundamentally, everything I'm going to share and everything I've dedicated my career to has always been supporting that notion here. One size doesn't fit all. And one size, quite frankly, is ugly a lot of times. So if that's where we're starting from, I'm sorry, out of phase by 1. We'll skip that last one. We'll come here anyway. I really am encouraging everyone here to adjust your take on personalization. Now, digital is the phrase that's often used, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. But I want to make sure that we never lose sight of the fact that digital is, quite frankly, a tool. Digital printing enables a whole list of services and features that we can share with customers. But at the end of the day, just telling someone something is digital, quite frankly, it doesn't get them there. It's cool for them to know, and if they're savvy enough to take advantage of what digital means, it's fantastic. It's a great pairing. But that ideal customer is 1 in a trillion. Well, you often have our customers that say, well, that's great. I'm not quite sure I need to know how you make it. But what I am interested in is whether or not it can bend and how closely it'll conform to my needs and I. So Overall, for personalization at Zazzle, our take has long been, well, let's start with one. Our job isn't to build a run and establish efficiencies there. Our job really is to make sure we're listening to the customer, we're providing the right tools for them to tell us exactly what they need and describe what the best case scenario is as closely as possible. Again, this isn't getting them to buy something that we have, decrementing inventory by 1 unit or whatever. It's a call and answer, it's a back and forth, it's bidirectional, encouraging them to tell us. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I think we find that businesses make now. A lot of common products, a product the customer is quite familiar with, but folks never really ask them. They guess at what that customer may need. And you see this by way of substrate types in paper and print. At Zazzle, there are a little less than, I think, 400 different product families. So given this audience, I'll speak to digital press and paper. But media selection is often one of the first mistakes folks make. You give customers a short menu, you ask them to fall in love with part of it, and they settle on something. And you'll know, generally speaking, like you give the customer something and they'll say it's between one of these two, whatever, it's a toss-up, flip a coin. What we've really pushed has been, well, no, give them a slightly larger menu and let them tell you exactly where they need to settle out. Something with greater weight, greater texture, whatever that is. But wait for the customer to tell you, and then walk them through the process around making it special just for them. Tilt your understanding of what your baseline offering is, just because there are wonderful resources I guarantee you all have in your companies or your facilities to make contoured, specialized, highly valuable product for customer. You just need to take a step back and divorce yourself from that menu that you've been so used to pushing towards your customers. Personalization is fundamentally a natural interaction. We do it all the time. In fact, some of the best conversationalists that we've all engaged do this to the nth degree. You're getting inbound feedback, and you're contouring your response back out to customer, your partner, whoever you're engaging, such that it makes sense to them. Systematizing this in your day-to-day operations, big deal, huge benefit. For us at Zazzle, we talk about this as just like talk to customer. It's not just a sell sheet. It's when they engage our customer service teams, when we have demos before any major product launch here. We get their feedback because the same people that often build a product or process have an intent case in their heads are the worst users. They don't have the passion, and oftentimes they don't have the need for the final product. So our journey around personalization comes back to embracing very simple one-to-one correspondence with customer. I don't know how many of you operate entirely independent websites right now or use the web as your primary input channel for orders. Show of hands. The rest of you guys here, I'm guessing you have high customer engagement along the way, right? It's either by phone and they come in. You get the chance to see the person you're engaging. And that's a wonderful privilege. At Zazzle, we've long hoped for that, but the scale and the construct of internet prohibits that. But this is what we always reduce down to before any major launch, before any project gets pushed and allocated engineering resources. We sit, we talk through it, we synthesize what that customer engagement relationship should look like if we're successful, and then we build backwards from there. That methodology I described to you, please know it isn't exclusive to print. In fact, I think it works beautifully on a continuum. You have a lot of pretty big media companies out here. I count Facebook as a media company. That's disputed in the States. But going through their own exercises here around doing exactly what I'm telling you, except the final deliverable takes different forms. Facebook, primarily as an ad, they're looking to serve you ads. There's targeting. They've learned so much about customer, albeit in a kind of underhanded way, in my humble opinion. The opportunity to gain high-fidelity data from your customer around their needs and their interests is a huge advantage we have in this industry versus just about any other one there. You get to ask the question directly to customer. You don't have to intuit it. You don't have to buy that information through third parties, at least not always. And customers are happy to share it with you. Why? Because they feel that it'll improve the final quality of the product they get. YouTube has amazing, amazing machine learning technologies they've deployed around this. There was a great talk I just attended about literally the diversity of what YouTube serves up here as part of Google and how it segues into a whole colony of other products. Pinterest on commerce, that's kind of a new thing for them. People actually buying versus just being inspired. And again, it's driven by them reaching out to customers, customers saying, these are the channels I wish to descend along, and then adjusting the final output so it fits better and better and better. And then lastly, Twitter, that's come a long way here. Relevance, the messaging they're putting out there, how they're allowing their users to share that relevant messaging with their social graphs here, and making sure the messaging is consistent from start to finish. So all the good stuff that I've shared so far, always want to call out the kind of the caveats to it here, the noise in the room. A lot of times when personalization is discussed, the two biggest kind of counterpoints that are raised that we have to address are inefficiency and then complexity. And if I had to add two words there, I would say unnecessary or perceived unnecessary complexity. In this industry specific, the notion of a run is something that I think needs to be reconsidered. Digital as a tool means that we can construct these amazing runs in whatever length we need to without sacrificing any degree of efficiency on our own. In fact, at Zazzle, one of the coolest stats that I think we have is in terms of our total annual print volume, everything that we send out, if you exclude our promotional inserts, that's the interstitial, the piece of paper that we put in with a lot of our packaging, something like 99 to 99.3% of the print jobs we create are produced in units of one. They're never duplicated. They're always unique. And it was something that we never thought we'd be able to achieve way back in the day. In fact, when we started my first year at the business, a big day was creating 300 unique products. That number is a little less than 3 million today now, a little over a decade later. Spanning everything that we do here, it's kind of mind-boggling at times now, the rate at which new content is generated. And all of that makes its way into whatever workflow, so it can be a paper product, it can be a greeting card, business card, it can be an apparel product, it could be furniture, it could be a bicycle on our site. But all of that is supported through a very common framework, and in truth, we built that framework around the features of our first Indigo. When we ingested what it meant to be able to print digitally, we said, well, fine, we can simulate all of the efficiencies of a long run upstream, but deliver very staccato, piecemeal final units that our customers want. So big day back then, like I said, a couple hundred. Our peak days now, we can match my first year at our business in about 90 minutes during peak season now for us. And again, with hyper diversity. So we don't create any of the content. In fact, at any given day, we don't have the function of job scheduling because we don't know what we're going to be ingesting. Things are dynamically consolidated into print jobs and built and delivered to press without any human intervention there. On the complexity side, this is perhaps one of the biggest gifts, I think, that the average user, print user around the world can walk into now. In the old day, we had to build templates. We had to build these jobs here. We needed to prime the engine. We were super excited about how we did it back then because we didn't even have a pre-press department. It was software. There were a couple of us that could build the templates and design the workflow upstream. Nowadays, it's so fantastic, and you have the average user, the beginning user in our field, can ingest content, build and express some degree of tech savvy here and capabilities, delivering jobs to press with fewer resources than they ever had. The notion of complexity is something I would like to dispel here. It's very different. Jobs get smaller and smaller, but overall here, the rate at which we can create new valuable content is super important and impressive. We have amazing margin profiles across our products. So there are products that we've offered at Zazzle that have had enjoyed, sustained gross margins north of 70, 80, 90% products here that we deliver to customer with unmatched NPS levels here and fast turnaround times. The personalization, the messaging around, tell us exactly what you want, and we will meet you there. We will walk through all the hoops, we'll do everything, and we'll make it easy for you to tell us, And then at the end of the day, we'll flip that instruction set the customer just gave us to manufacturing, and we will bring that physical product to life. But I never, ever have been one to kind of take a back seat when folks tell me, well, personalization, well, yeah, there's a lot of complexity or inefficiency, because I will put up our press numbers with just about anyone here when we're running them the way we should be, and you'll see the drop-off is virtually nil. So always want to address that as we talk about this here. Next slide, please. Overall, as an industry, or multiple industries, I want to call greater attention to what personalization gives rise to. Now, almost all of these are programs that I've subscribed to, except for BMW Individual, because my wife will not allow that. But Nike ID, probably one of the more popular brands, and if I had to describe a custom program, I'm guessing most of you have heard of this here, where you can go through and you can build your own shoe from scratch. You go through, you tell them all the colors. If you need to submit content, you can do that. But they amass everything you need and deliver a pair of shoes. And when they first launched the program, this was about 6 to 8 weeks. Nowadays, they can deliver to you in a little less than 2 weeks. I have BMW Individual here, which is a great program where it's not just ordering a car in the color you like, but imagine being able to contour every aspect of that vehicle and have it built, shipped to you, whatever country you're taking receipt. A lot of times in personalization, people talk about the tailored garment, and I think it's one of the most symbolic things. It's an amazing experience when customers go through that well. The easy kind of gimme example I'll have is just brides getting fitted for wedding dresses here. The generic wedding dress doesn't work. The same way, or to a much elevated degree, that generic products don't work a lot of times, just encourage customers to settle. And then lastly, you can't quite see it here, there's a brand we work with, it's called Lottie Vidney, Individual, backwards here. They make custom purses with content driven onto them, leather, the full works here. And this is, their products can be a little less than $1,000 here, so it's not kind of tchotchke product here. But it all kind of subscribes to, and it gives credence to some great stats around this here. 28% increase in average purchase price for customized goods. People are willing to wait in line to tell you that this is what they want, and they bring their wallets. And if you give them the opportunity to, and you show them that you encourage them to come back here, the repeat rates are fantastic. So for business cards, we've seen this here internally, where we've had serial entrepreneurs, folks that launched their first business as a sole proprietor. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't always go well. Starting a business is hard, as I'm sure everyone in this room, almost everyone in this room knows. But it hasn't stopped people from taking that next at bat and going after it again and again and again. And one of the most interesting things for me on my end is that when we see a common user create a pack of business cards, and then X months later, a quarter later, whatever the interval is, to come back, same user, same details, but different business. That is one of the most initially validating things a new business owner does. They declare it to the world. They buy their domains, but they build their own identity and persona around that. And you can understand why it's valuable. You can understand why people would pay a premium for that. And this applies to not just the paper products here, but apparel and a ton of other giftable products there. Even in times of kind of economic complexity. So when there was the downturn, 2008, 2010, one of the coolest stats that we experienced was that there wasn't a decline in our business at all. In fact, rather than buying a lot of kind of generic gifts that were intended for nameless recipients, we found that customers were going out of their way to make sure that they were telling whomever it was that was, they were allocating some of their dollars for, that this was made just for you. I took the time. I'm 100% committed to you getting this. And that's one of the interesting stats that we shared across the business. So, in talking about all of this, one of the first things I encourage people to do here, if you're beginning to explore offering personalized products or services, get to know your excellences. Actually know what you're good at. And it could be a long list of things. One of them I'd love for you to consider is that an excellence of yours can be as simple as the geography within which you work. What does that mean? Well, we found we operate a network of partners in addition to our own primary print facility we run in northern Nevada in the US. We have a lot of partners that are in tiny cities, towns, and big cities as well. And what they do is they have a remarkable pulse on what that customer in their common geography needs and wants. And they tell us that. So rather than broadcasting one common message, one final kind of rounded execution, we leverage that to say, well, we're going to contour this so much better now. We know what fits here. That's going to, I mean, well, we're in Spain here, so football's a pretty big deal, and in the US, sports are pretty crazy. And there are colors that are considered heresy for certain cities. And I'm in Northern California right now. Our team the Golden State Warriors just lost to the Toronto Raptors. It was a bad day when that happened. So much so that all things, red, white, and black, the Raptor colors, we saw a decline in California orders using that profile the days after the team lost. Blue and yellow, big deal, right? It's a good way of showing that you know what the local vibe is here, that you're that in tune. And then lastly, on this slide here, I always ask people to remember that your operations are far more nimble than you think. Very rarely does anyone manage fulfillment or core manufacturing with a massive single instance device, a workflow that is so tight it cannot be fine-tuned or adjusted in any way. There's always wiggle room. And that wiggle room is constantly being exploited by your operators, the folks on your manufacturing floor, folks that know their way around. And it exists for a reason. It offers a lot of times them the flexibility to build bridges and shortcut mend things when there are issues. But it's never a backbreak, or very rarely a backbreaking enterprise here to introduce at least some degree of flexibility and change. All of that flexibility, all of that change, there are a lot of complicated ways we could express what it meant internally for us at our business, but this was the most interesting way we expressed this a little while back. We were trying to describe the level of complexity that we saw daily, right? So if you think of Amazon has a ridiculous product catalog here. It's massive, make no mistake. But Amazon has one advantage over everyone here that's doing custom product. The product that Amazon is trying to sell and offer, it already exists. It has a physical instantiation. Someone can go there, they can touch it. They can take a photograph of it, right? It's very hard to do that for everything people can imagine. So for us, we built a language around, well, how are we going to allow customers to describe all these different things around what we can make for them? And you see it, we have product type, we have brand. One of the brands we work with is Disney. Disney has a massive, I don't know if anyone here has worked with Disney, but they have a massive list of rules and regulations that go along with every single one of their content partners and content entities. So you can never see Mickey Mouse in Agrabah. Agrabah is the fictional city where Princess Jasmine and Aladdin live. Two of them can never go together, right? So content, high fidelity, as we pair things together, there are rules that they wanted to bring to bear for us, and we had to be able to show we could follow it. There are silhouettes, there are components, there are all of these nuances that we wanted to be able to give our customers the chances to adjust. And when you permute it out, I think our product category now is a little less than 50 billion products that we can make at any given time that are always on the menu for us. So I thought this was a fun way of kind of distilling that down. And I quite frankly, I think that if all of you walk back to your businesses and you built your own kind of matrix around what is possible and what you'd be willing to give rise to, you'd surprise yourselves. This was, I think, the result of a weekend where we were saying, well, how are we going to describe this to new designers or new folks coming on the platform? And a team put this together, and when we took a step back, it was pride-inspiring internally, because we said, well, wow, we built tech and we've shown customers, here are all the dials that they can play with. Not everyone takes advantage of it, absolutely. In fact, there are times when customers try to do that and they end up with product that they don't like. So you can take it to an extreme. So we dial it up and back as we need to, but we keep all this functionality open and available back end for us. Our excellence at Zazzle, and very few people actually know this, it's something we call Viz. Fundamentally, we are a technology company. We learned print, and we went into the industry because there weren't partners that were willing to engage us at first. There weren't networks at this level that existed when the business was first kicked off. So we invested, and we started to do this on our own. Viz at Zazzle is our way of showing the customer what their final product is going to look like. Again, remember, at Amazon, if you're going to buy from them, that is an inventoried item 99% of the time. It has a location, it has weight, it has mass, and it can be photographed. Versus on our end, where we have to synthesize what that final product is going to look like for the customer. It's a bit of a trust fall, right? They want to be able to imagine and see this virtual product that technically hasn't been fully described just yet. And we needed a way of doing that. So the core of our business is a team called Viz. And Viz is everything you see when you come to Zazzle. If you're ever in Northern California, specifically Redwood City, and you come by our office, in our lobby, you'll find this guy. His name's Talus. And rather than talk to you about Talus, I'd love to show you a quick little video about how we use it.
My name is Matt DeFonso. I work for the Viz team, and we are in charge of taking product, shooting it, and pulling certain data from it to allow users to upload their own images and map them onto the products that we've shot. So what we have here is we have Talus, our robot. That is a robotic tripod at the moment. We can basically drive the camera around and take pictures as needed. The nice thing that we get with this is we get a perfectly repeatable setup. So if we want to switch between angles that we're shooting, we're able to just drive between angles with no variation in the actual position. One of the things that we find very special about the robot, it allows us to rapidly onboard product in a way that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. We can set up a shot, we can light a shot one time, and just basically go through the manual process of placing the product in a registered location and running a program to just shoot every angle all at once. It basically takes what would take a day to shoot. We can shoot in about 10 minutes. The main goal for the robot at this point is to be able to lay product out on the floor and have the robot actually figure out what needs to be shot, which angles need to be shot, and execute the entire thing without any user intervention at all at that point.
So originally when Talus came up for us here, it was because we were launching apparel products, and each new apparel SKU, so if I look across this room right now, there are tons of different styles of garment. It was taking us about 4 months to launch each one. And over the course of several years, we took it from 4 months down to about 8 minutes now per garment that we need to launch. And it isn't exclusively internal for us. Part of why I think it's relevant in this discussion now is that for a lot of partners that we engage and we work with, we use their product in Talus. We say, hey, we can build an interface for you to show all that you can do from cars to food, using Talus and using whatever rule set external partners have. So as you go through your process, if ever you wanted to leverage part of a network to say, hey, how could we show this to customers? There are companies like ours, and I know of a few others out there that can take your specialized excellences and help convert them into a finalized experience for customers that is quite compelling. So assuming you haven't begun this year, I thought it would be good to kind of wrap up by telling you, if you're deciding to explore this, how do you do it? Where do you start? Hint, first little tip I offer folks is build a secret menu. What do I mean when I say secret menu? It is all the things that your teams do internally now when they're ordering for themselves or for people they know. Every company has this, and you know it on your own. There are things that you can do and people have done, but in very, very unique circumstances. So for us, we actually let people audition those ideas internally. Folks say, hey, I wanted to have this, and just the site didn't let me do it, or whatever the limitation was. So I know how to do this on my own, and they wrote up a workflow around it. Encourage you guys to do that on your own, because if the folks that know what they're doing on your own floors, in your own companies, are building these, it might be worthwhile to actually share some of those features and capabilities with customers. And allow your customers to remix it on their own to the nth degree, ultimately ending up where they need to. Tell your own story about how you think about your products to customers. Pretty big deal. Why? Well, for the most part, the final products that almost everyone here in this room offers, customers likely to be somewhat familiar with. What the customer doesn't necessarily know is why you arrived on those products, why you settled on your process for making them, and how you're different from just about everyone else. So the personalization story or request you're making a customer, you can jumpstart that yourselves. You can say, well, hey, these are some of the things, the unique opportunities we predispose you to as a business by going with us. And I strongly discourage modesty during this phase. Why? It's very easy for them to take it for granted anyway. But all these little shades of who you are that come out through your product, through your workflow, through everything else that you're working on can be quite valuable to customer. So encourage you and your teams to put yourselves on center stage as you espouse the values, the technology, the protocol that your companies bring to bear, and share that with your customers. And another point here I wanted to share was that making sure that you get better at reviewing the things you're declining. Internally for us, this was a big reveal. Customers were requesting so many different features or new products that people are summarily saying, no, it's just not on the menu. A lot of those things we had done in the past. We'd done them as part of R&D cycles or special orders, but we had declined so many customers, and so many of the requests would have required a de minimis amount of variance, either from another product line or from a fixed workflow that we'd put in place. So as we've kind of refined our pathways to personalization and custom products, this has been one of the most comfortable starting points for us. Just saying, well, let's go through the waste bins and see everything that we declined, everything that we negged, and how much of this can be brought back to life fairly quickly. And closing slide here. Just remember that, this is, I love showing this. I've had this printed actually a pretty large size because people think a couple of different things. One, they either see it as an affirmative statement, make sure you matter, or they read the sun setting and the shadow it casts as I matter here. Always establish that sense of respect with your customer so the communication remains open. In so many of our product lines, from when we launched calendars as a business many years ago, we thought it would be a very mom and grandma heavy product. Where internally, it didn't help that there was a bunch of us guys that were thinking, we didn't even have calendars ourselves, but we wanted to put it on the site. We thought we knew exactly what the use case was. And we launched it, and lo and behold, there were two amazing customer categories that came up immediately and changed things for us. One of them was military wives. That was one of the most popular products we were selling to that demographic because they were creating them for deployed spouses, sons, and children. And it was a good way of reminding them what their family looked like and all the things they had to look forward to when they came back. Pretty big deal. And then secondly, with all the flexibility and everything we put in place, families started using them as these very, very basic level books. They were using for children to teach them, not just the months of the year, but creating walkways and training manuals and schedules using that product. It was everything we hadn't considered, but were remarkably valuable to the customers that we'd shared them with. So, really grateful for time. I know we're running just about to run out here, and I was supposed to leave some time for questions, but if I had to distill it down to just one thing, I would say, please maintain open discourse with your customers and never back away from challenging yourselves to offering new products that, quite frankly, you can do already, but allowing the market for them to emerge under your roofs. Any questions? If not, then thank you guys so much for your time.